Welcome to the Vaughn Hanshaw broadcast. This is your evangelist, Vaughn Hanshaw. Our scripture for today's message is found in Luke chapter 6, verse 26, and Jesus says this: Woe unto you when all men shall speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets. The Greek word for woe means grief be upon you. It means alas. The Greek word for well means good, beautiful, kind, fair words. Are you preachers in this category today? Are you paying attention to what Jesus is really saying in this passage? He is saying this about all Christians in general and not just the preachers, but my focus today is concerning you preachers. And Jesus is saying, if everyone is bragging on you, speaking nice, beautiful, and kind words about you, then something is wrong with you, your ministry, and your walk with the Lord. Because over in Matthew 10:22, he says that we will be hated of all men for my name's sake. The Greek word hated here means detested and despised. Now, I suppose that all of us would agree that Billy Graham is the most well-known preacher in our day, as he, quote, has gone around and preached all over the world. But I have a problem with Billy Graham and his ministry. Why? Because he is loved and respected and spoken of kindly by nearly everyone in the world. Why is that? It's because at the onset of his so-called ministry, he formed a partnership with a Roman Catholic cult, and he has always had Catholic priests to work his altar calls. So if someone comes to one of his altar calls and wants to go to a Catholic church, then that Catholic priest is there to lead that person to their cult. And Billy Graham has gone along with this. He is ecumenical, and that's why he is loved and well spoken of. But one day soon, mark it down, Billy Graham will give an account because he is ecumenical and because of his compromising with a cult. Of course he's loved everybody, because all he ever preaches is John 3:16. But hear me today, there's more to the Bible than John 3:16. Go back with me to 1 Kings chapter 18, verse 17, which says this: When King Ahab saw the prophet Elijah, Ahab said to him, Are you he that troubles Israel? The Hebrew word for troubles here means to stir things up, to disturb. Ahab was calling Elijah a troublemaker for one reason, and that was because Elijah publicly rebuked King Ahab and Jezebel for their sins and their idolatry. Now go with me to Acts chapter 24, verse 5. And Tertullius is persecuting the Apostle Paul for preaching against Judaism, and he says this about Paul: We have found this man to be a pestilent fellow and a mover of sedition. The Greek word for pestilent here means a plague or a pest. Now my question to you preachers is this: are you a popular preacher, or are you a pest? Are you a troublemaker like the great prophet Elijah, or are you loved by the masses? Are you spoken kindly of, or are you called a lunatic like they called John the Baptist? You can't have it both ways. This is the problem with modern day preachers today. They don't want to offend anybody. They are politically correct. They're compromisers with cults. They don't do anything that creates waves or rocks the boat of doubly dead dry religion. They want to fit in and join a wolf pack called a denomination and be ecumenical. Jesus was not ecumenical. A true preacher is not ecumenical. Brother, you're not doing your job if this describes you. Your job as a gospel preacher is to preach the true truth. It's to teach the saints, to feed the sheep, to equip the saints to do the work of God. It's to expose false teacher and false teaching, not to form a partnership with them. Your job is to reprove, rebuke, and to exhort the truth, and to expound the truth, and to teach the truth of the gospel. Because we're living in the time when they will not endure sound doctrine. That's the day and the hour we're living in, preacher. Therefore, you preachers need to study to show yourselves approved and qualified. Seek the face of God for the message that he wants to preach through you. And yes, he will call upon you to preach messages that are controversial. If you preach it right, your phone will stop ringing. Your calendar will stay empty because the pastors will quit inviting you in to preach at their doubly dead dry churches. But your job, preacher, is to be faithful to the preaching of the gospel. Yes, persecution will come. Lonely days and lonely nights will come. Family and friends will walk away. You may be arrested and put in prison for preaching the gospel truth, and I mean right here in America. But hey, that's all right. But after it's all said and done, you can say, I have stayed the course. I have run my race. I have fought a good fight. I have kept the faith, and through it all I can say I have preached righteousness in the great congregations of the churches. I have let my little light shine on a hill here in Kentucky. I have preached to the rich and I have preached to the poor. I have preached when I was well and I have preached when I was sick, and through my pain, problems, and perils the gospel was preached, and through my sorrows, sufferings, and sadness the gospel was preached, and through the veil of heartache and heartbreak, the gospel of Jesus Christ was preached. And one day, when this life is over and I breathe my last breath and they lower my crippled body in the earth, I will look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace, and I want to hear him say, well done, good and faithful servant, enter into the joys and the splendors of heaven, as he places the crown of life on my head. I'm out of time, but I pray today's program has been a blessing in your life. Tell your family and friends to tune us in on Facebook and YouTube. Until next time, may God bless you is my prayer.